Have you ever felt it? That chilling, undeniable truth that settles in your bones in the quiet moments of the night. The realization that right now, at this very second, someone with less talent, less intelligence, and less heart than you is achieving the very things you dream of. They are winning the game you feel you were born to play. Why? What is this invisible force that propels them forward while you remain anchored in place, a spectator to your own destiny? It's not magic. It's not luck. It's a raw, primal energy they command, a frequency of absolute certainty that bends reality to their will. They walk, speak, and breathe, an unshakable belief in their own deservingness, and the universe, in its infinite wisdom, has no choice but to agree. They look more certain. They radiate a power that has nothing to do with their abilities and everything to do with their alignment to victory. If this message resonates with the deepest part of you, let the universe know by liking this video, for you are signaling your readiness to awaken. Subscribe and join a legion of souls who are done waiting and are now ready to command. And in the comments below, declare your awakening by typing "I am ready" and feel the collective energy of those who, like you, are stepping into their true power. The world is not a fair and just meritocracy. It is a grand theater of perception. It doesn't always reward the most skilled, but it unfailingly bows to the most certain. The bold get ahead, even if they lack the skill, because their energy announces their arrival before their credentials do. They speak without the shadow of hesitation, their words cutting through the noise of doubt like a sharpened blade. They don't ask for permission. Their very presence is the permission. They act as if they are the rightful heirs to everything they desire, and the world, mesmerized by this display of sovereign energy, simply believes them. It hands them the keys to the kingdom, not because they earned them through tireless work alone, but because they showed up at the castle gates acting like they already owned them. This is the sacred, unspoken law of power, a truth that has been intentionally veiled from you. Why? Because a world of hesitant, questioning people is a world that is easily controlled. A world of kings and queens, however, is a world that cannot be tamed. And where are you in this grand play? You are backstage, overthinking your lines, waiting for the perfect cue that never comes. You are trapped in the labyrinth of your own mind, a prisoner to the endless cycle of what if. You hesitate, you doubt. You wait for the right moment, the right feeling, the right alignment of stars before you make your move. You believe that preparation is the key, that you must have every answer before you ask the first question. But this is the great deception of the powerless. You are waiting for a feeling of readiness that the truly powerful never needed in the first place. And as you wait, as you polish your armor and sharpen your sword in the shadows, someone else, someone with a blunter sword and dented armor, has already stormed the battlefield and claimed the victory that could have been yours. They seized what was yours not because they were stronger, but because they simply acted. They didn't wait for the right moment. They declared the moment right by their action. The throne you were meant to occupy, the destiny that whispered your name, is taken by another. Not by a stronger warrior, but by a more decisive one. Understand this divine truth. Confidence is not a personality trait. It is not something you are born with or without. Confidence is a weapon. It is the spiritual armor that makes you impervious to the doubts of the world and, more importantly, to the insidious whispers of your own inner saboteur. And if you do not consciously and deliberately wield this weapon, it will be used against you. Others, sensing your vacancy of power, will project their own certainty onto your reality. Their beliefs will shape your world. Their commands will become your actions. Their limitations will become your prison. The great strategist Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. He knew that the world is a battlefield of wills, and the hesitant are the first casualties. The bold, even in their ignorance, carve out empires, while the brilliant, in their indecision, are left behind to write footnotes in the history of others. This is the stark, cold reality of the energetic exchange that governs our world. Power does not flow to the most deserving, the most knowledgeable, or the most righteous. It flows, without fail, to the most certain. It is a universal law, as immutable as gravity. This video is not just a message. It is a divine intervention. It is a turning point in your spiritual journey. It is not here to offer you fleeting motivation or temporary comfort. It is here to hand you the keys to your own kingdom. It is here for control. From this moment forward, you will learn to erase hesitation from your very cells. You will learn to speak with the calm finality of a ruler. You will learn to move through the world like a man who expects, and therefore receives, absolute obedience from reality itself. So watch closely. Listen with your soul, not just your ears, because from this point forward, your weakness will no longer be tolerated. It has served its purpose in showing you what you are not. Now, it will be replaced. It will be transmuted into the very source of your greatest strength. You must internalize this. You were not born weak. Your soul, your divine blueprint, is one of magnificent power. You were made weak. You were conditioned into this state of hesitation through a lifetime of repetition, through a system of rewards for obedience and punishments for rebellion. You were trained to seek approval as if it were oxygen, to ask, "Is this okay?" before every move. You were taught to obey the rules of a game you didn't consent to playing. You were programmed to be a servant, conditioned to please, a loyal dog who flinches at the first sign of judgment and waits patiently for permission that it must grant itself. That voice of doubt in your head, the one that overthinks every decision, that apologizes before it has even spoken, that hesitates at the threshold of greatness that is not you, that is the inner servant. That is the ghost of your programming. And if you do not kill him, if you do not mercilessly and lovingly extinguish that voice, you will never, ever be free. You will live and die a slave to the approval of others, a ghost in your own life. Machiavelli didn't whisper his commands. He commanded. He didn't wait to be understood. He acted and let others catch up to his reality. He didn't ask for power. He seized it because he understood a crucial secret. Those who ask for power do not deserve it. Power is never given, it is only ever taken. Your transformation, your great awakening, begins with a single, potent principle: inversion. Every time your programming urges you to shrink, you must consciously expand. Fill the space. Every time you feel the need to explain yourself, to justify your existence, you must pause, hold the silence, let them grapple with it. Every time you want to apologize for your presence, you must stare back with unwavering stillness. This is the beginning of the rewiring. This is how you reclaim your divine sovereignty. Because dangerous, world-altering confidence doesn't come from feeling ready. It comes from the sacred act of doing what the inner servant would never dare. It is forged in the fire of action, in the face of fear. You start by walking faster, with purpose, as if you have a destination of immense importance. You take up more space, not with arrogance, but with the quiet authority of someone who belongs anywhere they choose to be. You stop the nervous nodding, the subconscious signal of submission. You stop softening your tone to make others comfortable. Your comfort is no longer the priority, your truth island. You begin to speak as if your words are not suggestions, but decisions. Your statements are not questions seeking validation, they are declarations of reality. Confidence, you see, is not a mindset, it is an identity. And that identity is forged in the holy fires of defiance. Not defiance against the world, but defiance against the version of you that still wants to serve, the part of you that still craves the pat on the head from a world that will never truly value you until you value yourself first. So here is your first rule, the first commandment of your new reality. If it makes you feel small, you must kill it. A thought that diminishes you, starve it of your attention. A habit that keeps you trapped, annihilate it with a new, empowering one. A person who drains your energy and makes you question your worth. Erase them from your reality, not with anger, but with the cold, clean precision of a surgeon removing a sickness. If an action makes you hesitate, you must confront it head-on. If a belief makes you weak, you must deny its power over you. If a behavior is designed to be liked, you must laugh at its transparency. The world will tell you to be kind, polite, and nice. It will praise the virtues of the agreeable. But here is the Machiavellian truth, the one that operates beneath the surface of polite society. Nice men are tools. They are used, discarded, and replaced. Their kindness is mistaken for weakness, their politeness for submission. Powerful men are not nice. They are precise. They are measured, controlled, and calculated. And their power begins by slaughtering that small, begging voice inside them that still seeks to be accepted by the very forces that wish to keep it caged. You do not need their permission. You do not need their validation. You need only one thing, the willingness to become feared. Not feared by others in a malicious sense, but feared by your former self, feared by the limitations that once held you captive. Because once you kill the inner servant, the true ruler, your authentic, divine self awakens. Move like you own the room. Powerful men don't burst into a space demanding attention. They don't arrive loudly. They arrive with presence. Their power is not in their voice, but in their silence. It is in their stillness, their unwavering stare. They command the energy of a room without saying a word. You don't need to be known. You don't need to be liked. You only need the atmosphere to shift the moment you enter. That is the signature of true power. That is how a man moves when he owns the room. Not because he's been told he does, but because his entire being, his very vibration, behaves as if he always has. Machiavelli observed this in the royal courts. The true rulers weren't always the kings on the throne. Sometimes it was the quiet advisor in the corner, the man who barely spoke, but when he did, the entire court, including the king, leaned in to listen. Why? Because his silence held more weight than their king's proclamations. Silence is control. You think filling the air with words makes you dominant. It doesn't. It makes you predictable. It reveals your hand. You are broadcasting your insecurities, your need for them to understand you. The quiet man is the real threat, because no one knows what he is truly thinking. When you walk into a room, you do not look for permission in the eyes of others. You don't glance around, seeking a nod of approval. You observe, you absorb. You let the others rush to prove themselves, to fill the silence with their nervous energy, while you simply calculate. Your posture speaks before your mouth ever does. You must move slowly, deliberately. Not because you are uncertain, but because you are in no hurry. The world will wait for you. Understand that predators do not sprint unless it is time to strike. Until then, they wait, calm, ready. Most people are so lost in their own performance of confidence that they don't even realize how fast they move, how quickly they talk, how often they interrupt. They are desperate to impress because they are still operating beneath someone else's judgment. But when you walk in as if you own the space, you don't speak to impress, you speak to decide. Every sentence you utter carries the weight of finality. Every word sounds like a conclusion, not an opening for debate. And a fascinating thing begins to happen. People start to listen differently. They don't challenge you, because your certainty gives them nothing to push against. Instead, they calibrate themselves to you. And when others speak, you wait. You let them go first. You let them reveal their hunger, their insecurity, their weakness. Because the one who speaks first almost always gives away what they fear, what they want, what they need. And once you know that, you can bend them to your will. You don't chase their energy. You create your own gravity that pulls them into your orbit. Confidence at this level is not about being liked. It's about making others question their own position, just by the simple act of you standing near them. So you must carry yourself as if you've already won the war. Not arrogantly, but with the profound stillness of someone who doesn't need to compete because he has already chosen himself as the victor. If they respect you, good. If they don't, even better. Because indifference to the approval of others is the final and most potent form of power. And if the room wasn't yours when you entered, by the time you leave, they will remember it as if it was. Not because you demanded it, but because your very existence made it so. You didn't have to. Speak as if you cannot be denied. Words are not just sounds, they are weapons that shape reality. Most men wield them like clumsy sticks, asking for permission to exist with every utterance. You can spot them instantly. The slight upward inflection at the end of a sentence, turning a statement into a question. The nervous laughter that punctuates their own points. The endless cascade of filler words. Like, you know, I think maybe. I'm not sure, but these are not words. They are signals of surrender. They are apologies for taking up space. That is not speech. That is self-sabotage. Machiavelli knew the truth. Power resides not always in what you say, but in how you say it, and in the resonant silence that follows. When you speak like you cannot be denied, a fundamental shift occurs. People stop analyzing your words and start submitting to the sheer weight of your certainty. And this is the game. People are not logical creatures, they are emotional. They don't follow truth, they follow conviction. If you sound sure, they assume you are right. If you hesitate, they assume you are not worth listening to. So, what does a Machiavellian voice sound like? It is slow, it is calm, it is final. You speak as if your words are not open for debate, as if each sentence is a decree. You speak like someone who already expects to be obeyed. It doesn't matter if you're in a room full of experts who have more knowledge than you. If you sound like a decision, they will defer. That is the first rule of vocal power. Sound like the end, not the beginning. And here is the secret most will never tell you. You don't need to speak often to be respected. In fact, the more you say, the more ammunition you give others to decode you, to challenge you, or worse, to grow bored of you and stop fearing you. So, you must speak less, but mean more. When you do speak, eliminate all softness. No filler, no rambling explanations, no apologies. Never, ever say phrases like, "I'm just saying," or "I could be wrong," or "I don't know if this makes sense, but..." These are escape hatches for the weak. Burn them. Say what you mean, and then leave it there. Let others deal with the silence that follows. That silence, after a strong statement, is incredibly powerful. It dares people to challenge you, and most won't. Why? Because in that space you've created, they become afraid of what else you might say. Now, you must understand this. The tone of your voice is your true message. The words are merely the surface. It is your tone, your calm, grounded, deliberate tone, that tells people exactly where you stand in the hierarchy. You want to rise? Lower your vocal pitch. Slow your tempo. Remove the nervous, frantic energy from your speech. Sound like someone who has nothing to prove and everything under control. Sound like a man who has already made up his mind and simply expects the world to catch up. You don't win conversations by being louder. You win them by speaking in a way that makes people feel that your words aren't mere suggestions. They are facts. This is how rulers speak. This is how generals command armies. This is how kings in exile speak before they take their thrones back. And if someone dares to challenge you, you must never defend yourself. You must redirect. Don't argue. Don't explain. Don't justify. You simply say, "I disagree." Or better yet, "That's incorrect." And then you move on. Because when you refuse to engage in a debate, you signal something terrifyingly powerful, that your reality is not up for negotiation. That is how you control a room without ever raising your voice. Because confidence isn't volume, it's gravity. It is the invisible weight behind your words. It is the silent assumption that when you speak, others should listen. And when you speak, the room should feel it not through noise, not through arrogance, but through the unshakable certainty of your core. You are not trying to be right. You are speaking like someone who simply cannot be wrong. You are not trying to be heard. You are speaking like someone who doesn't care if they are, because you know they will be, eventually. That is power. And from this point forward, it is how you either speak or you stay silent. Confidence without control is mere decoration. You can learn to walk tall, speak well, and move with authority. But if someone can still trigger you with a single sentence, if they can disrupt your inner peace with a look or a word, you are not powerful. You are exposed. This is the final frontier where most men fail. They master the outer performance of presence and speech, but their emotions still belong to everyone else. A whisper of disrespect, and they react. A compliment, and they soften. A moment of silence, and they spiral into self-doubt. You are not free until you have mastered the invisible war, the one that rages inside your own mind. And that mastery begins by rewiring your very identity. Machiavelli understood this in the courts of power. He didn't fear external enemies. He feared dependency, emotional or otherwise. He didn't trust affection. He trusted control. Because he knew that once people know what moves you, they know where to press. And once they know where to press, you are no longer dangerous. You are manageable. And manageable men are discarded the moment they lose their usefulness. So here is the transformation. You stop being the man who reacts, and you become the man who calculates. Someone insults you? You don't explain or defend. You observe. You extract data. What are they trying to get from you? What insecurity are they hiding behind that insult? Someone praises you. You don't melt. You analyze. Why are they complimenting you now? What do they want? Someone ignores you. You don't panic. You become even colder. Your silence becomes your weapon, not your wound. This is what it means to become psychologically unreachable. Not emotionless, but unshakable. You feel everything, but you act on nothing unless it serves your ultimate outcome. When someone tests you, you show no visible discomfort. Why? Because your mind is not a public space for them to vandalize. It is a fortress, and you alone decide who enters. That is how you stop being manipulated. Most men are so transparently easy to control, it's laughable. Tell them they're not good enough, and they'll spend their lives over-explaining and trying to prove you wrong. Tell them they're amazing, and they will chase your validation like a drug. Pull away from them emotionally, and they will beg for you to reconnect. This is not power. This is predictable programming. And until you break that code within yourself, you will always be someone else's tool. So how do you rewire? You kill the need to be understood. That is the root virus. The desire to explain yourself, to be seen, to be validated. That is what makes you controllable. Burn it. You do not exist to be understood. You exist to move the world around you strategically, surgically, silently. You kill the fear of rejection because you understand that the Machiavellian mind does not chase acceptance. It controls access. You don't want to be invited in. You want people to wonder what happens when they are no longer allowed near you, and you kill the habit of reacting emotionally. Your emotions are real, but they are irrelevant unless you choose to weaponize them. You're angry? Use it as fuel. You're insulted? Use it as leverage. You're doubted? Use it as silent motivation, and let your results speak later. This is how powerful men are built. They do not become robotic. They become undeniable. Because once no one can move you emotionally, they can only watch you move with precision and fear what you will do next. Let others chase peace and understanding. You will chase clarity and control. Because the world does not care how you feel. It only responds to what you project. And from now on, you will project certainty, direction, and gravity. When your identity becomes unshakable, you become dangerous. Not because you are violent, not because you are loud, but because you are unreachable. The people around you will try to find a crack in your armor. They will test you, praise you, ignore you, and tempt you. But nothing will work. You will stay the same, cold, calm, calculated. And in time, they will stop trying to manipulate you because they will realize something terrifying. You are the one person they cannot move. This is the final transformation, not of posture, not of speech, not of appearance, but of identity. You are no longer shaped by others. You shape the room. You shape the rules. You shape the outcome. You don't need to be understood. You don't need to be accepted. You don't need anything from anyone, because now you belong to no one. And that alone, is what makes you untouchable. Rejection feels like a wound to the weak. To the powerful, it is a signal. It is a gift. It is a message from the world telling you that you were too available, too obvious, too desperate. Good. Now you know what needs to be destroyed within you. Understand this. Rejection is not personal. It is positional. People reject what they believe they can survive without. So if they said no to you, If they walked away, it means they believed they lost nothing of value. That is not an insult, that is intel. Now you know where they truly stand, and more importantly, where you truly stand. This means you can now reposition yourself to strike back later, when they are weak and you have become untouchable. Step 1. Never appear affected. The moment you show pain, they win. And this isn't even about them, it is about your legend. A Machiavellian mind does not panic when the door shuts, it makes the room colder. You weren't rejected, they were disqualified from accessing you. Remember, rejection is only real when you acknowledge it. So you don't react, you evolve. Step 2. Withdraw your presence like a weapon. What happens when something you took for granted suddenly disappears? You begin to feel its weight, its value. That is exactly what you do when you are rejected. You vanish. No explanations, no emotional farewells, just a clean, strategic absence. And while they feel the void you've created, you build. Machiavelli said, "Men should be either treated generously or destroyed because they take revenge for slight injuries, but not for ones that are too severe. So do not hurt them with words. Make them irrelevant with your success. Make your silence louder than their rejection ever was. Make them wonder where you went, how far you've gone, and why they ever thought they had access to you at all." Step 3. Reframe the narrative. Rejection only has power if it looks like you were the one chasing something. So you must rewrite the story, not for them, but for yourself. You weren't rejected. You selected yourself out of a game that was too small for you. You allowed them to say no because you were observing their behavior, testing them. You gave them one opportunity to prove they had the discernment to recognize power. They failed, and in that failure, they told you everything you ever needed to know. Now, you vanish and you upgrade. Step 4. Convert rejection into control. This is where you truly win. Rejection is clarity. Most people live in a dense fog of confusion, not knowing who respects them, who uses them, or who fears them. But rejection cuts through that fog like a blade. Now you know who is blind to your value. Now you know where your power has no impact. Yet. So what do you do with this information? You refine your edge. You sharpen your image. You amplify your value so loudly that the very people who once ignored you now have to explain themselves when they speak your name. And the next time they come back, and they always come back, they will. You won't even need to reject them. You will have already evolved beyond their reach. That is control. Silent, permanent, elegant. Step 5. Weaponize your comeback. The goal is never revenge. Revenge is emotional. Machiavellian power is always calculated. So you don't try to get back at anyone. You let time handle that for you. You reappear only when your presence creates a profound sense of discomfort and regret in them. When your success is so visible, they cannot avoid it. When the person who rejected you is now forced to watch you dominate the very space they thought you didn't belong in. And in that moment, you say nothing. You offer no spite, no sarcasm, no ego. You offer a simple glance, or better yet, no glance at all. Because now, you are not trying to be accepted. You are setting the standard. Final word. Rejection is not defeat. It is the test. It is the filter. It is the fire that shows you what needs to be culled, what needs to be cut, and who needs to be left behind. So remember this. You were not rejected. You were redirected toward a version of yourself that doesn't ask twice, doesn't flinch, and doesn't wait to be chosen. Now go build in silence, and return as a force they cannot reject, even if they want to. You have been reshaped. Not inspired, not motivated. You have been rebuilt from the inside out. You killed self-doubt, not with hollow affirmations, but with cold, hard action. You didn't wait to feel ready. You moved, you acted. And you learned that power doesn't belong to the perfect, it belongs to the bold. You took their rejection and turned it into fuel. No more chasing approval. Now, you let people feel the crushing cost of losing you. You became scarce, strategic, silent, and they noticed. You stopped entering rooms hoping to be accepted. Now, you own them through sheer presence, posture, and precision. You no longer speak to be heard. You speak as if no one in the world can afford to disagree with you. And above all, you have rewired your identity. You are no longer predictable. You are no longer easily moved. You have become unreachable, emotionally untouchable. They can't provoke you. They can't tempt you. They can't shake you. Because you belong to no one now. And that is what makes you unforgettable. That is what creates a legend. Not noise, not fame, but powerful silence, cold clarity, and ruthless consistency. You don't need to announce your transformation. They will feel it in your walk, in your tone, in your absence. You have become the man people observe quietly. The one who used to chase is now being chased. The one who used to ask is now deciding. The one who no longer needs approval because he has become the standard. So no, this was not just about confidence. This was about dominance, mental, emotional, psychological. You are not here to fit in. You are here to move the pieces, to bend the room to your will, to haunt their memory even in silence. Because legends do not beg, they do not explain, they exist. And the world reshapes itself around them. Final command. Like this video if you are done chasing. Subscribe if you are ready to become the kind of man they can't control, can't predict, and can never, ever forget. Because this isn't self-help. This is war. And you just became a weapon.